Hello, folks. We'll be getting started in about 7 minutes. All right. Looks like it's time to begin. All right, that's loaded. Good. All right. Nothing there. Okay. So I am going to finish working on this beauty. That means I need to collect a few key objects, which I probably should have prepped ahead of time. Now here's a tip for people. Let me get something else to show you. So there's basically two ways that I like to use watercolors. One, I take an entire one of these tubes and I dump it into one of these bottles and I add water and then I just shake it up whenever I need to use it and it's already liquid. That's option one. I'm missing two. Option two is to take one of those tubes and dump the entire content into a bead container, and that leaves me with a series of little dried out pockets. You usually have to let them dry for a couple of days, but once they do dry, they work just like any other pad watercolor set, where, you just wet one of these pads and you can pull the paint up. So it is very useful for that. Now, this has been a very brown heavy composition so far, and I am going to stick with a little bit of brown, but I do want some red in my brown now, so I can add some more interesting aspects to this. So a little bit of this, which is a rustier, sort of dried out sandy color. And then a little flat red for some life. All right. Now I am ready to get going. Now again, if you're listening in, you can live tweet me at Shaded Areas with the hashtag, I can't remember the hashtag now. Groot Boot, GROOTBOOT. Simple enough. But if you give me a tag with that, asking any sort of question, I will answer you on the broadcast. Now, the one sad thing about working with the pre-bottled, watered-down paints is that, as you see, it's coming in a little thin. So it'll take me a number of layers to get a solid color, but it is very useful for laying down the base because, it's all about the base. Couldn't help it. So I'm going to lay this down as a solid wash, but then I'm going to come in with some of these colors over here to give it a little more complexity. So now I've got those two strips pretty well primed. Although I don't seem to have my earth tones. That is just annoying. Aha! Earth tones. Okay. This is set in place. Come on, little buddy. There we go. Okay. Now, let's grab a little bit of you. So I'm just loosely painting or pushing the paint around at the moment because this canvas, this sheet has not been wet in a while. A little bit cleaner, more vivid red up on the higher point. Now I'm going to let those rest. I'm going to use this little corner pocket here to add a little bit of red tone to some of this down here. Just to help separate these rubble piles from the foreground, or from the background. Also gonna add some tint to this car. I think I'm going to make the car blue instead of red. Maybe not blue. Something darker. I haven't decided yet. I don't want it to pop out too much, but I do want it to obviously be a car. Now, a lot of this is browns and reds, which means I kind of want to stay away from blues and greens. I guess I could go for like an orange. Yeah, let's go for a brighter orange. That should feel like a paint color or a car color. Going to do another layer of that later, but that is pretty good for standing out against that grime. Let some of that orange that I just pulled wash into this. Now, going to need a pinpoint brush. I'm going to add some greens to our Groot. Got a nice verdant green down here, which always comes out looking a little alien, but I think that'll work well with all of this dryness and brownness going on. Normally you put this green up against blues and it's obvious that it's not a plant green, but I think this will work to our benefit in such a dry, washed out ground. Okay. Got Groot popping out a little bit better. I'm really going to need to darken up that background, though, so that he really does just stand out. Now, luckily, there are two buildings here. So I'm going to add a little bit darker of a brown around Groot here. And then later, I will come back with a little bit of dark blue to act as a shadow play. And that blue is going to totally peel him off of that background. But I want to do it in 2 layers so that this darker brown sets in first. Otherwise, the blue is going to be way too strong. Good. Yeah, he's a little bit more highlighted. He's going to need some more tone and texture later, but that's later. I got some other objects back here that are going to need some attention. But for right now, let's just add some texture to the rubble. Good, 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 good. All right. Now, adding a little bit of detail to some of these other sections. We're going to dirty up the car back here. Add some red to that label bottle. Grab a little bit more orange for the car. That is a little bit of progress. Now, let's get some lens action on Wall-E over here. White never really shows up as white when you're doing watercolor. The paint just does kind of bleed into whatever color you're putting it onto. So we'll just sort of mute that color in a very chalky way. But that can work to your benefit if you're going to layer a second color on top. So you can see I'm adding white here, but when it dries, it'll just turn the gray a little chalkier. Hopefully, it'll be light enough to get the effect I want, though. All right, lenses are done. Now, just gonna pull up a quick reference image of Wall-E so I can get some of the details. Got my tablet up over here. Also sipping coffee. That's another very important thing to do. Do. Okay. So in terms of other, gonna whiten up this whole circle here. Actually, that should do pretty good. You can see up around the eyes now as it's dried out some that didn't really turn to white. But it did lighten things up. And that's good. In fact, I'm going to want a little bit more of that effect because this whole ocular thing is going to need some more attention in that vein now that I'm looking at this reference photo. I would be talking more, but according to this, there are no viewers. So I'm going to keep doing this, but, you know, I don't want to talk to myself either. But if you are watching, feel free to jab me on Twitter at Shaded Areas or with the hashtag GrootBoot, and I will try to babble more if it seems appropriate. So now I'm coming in with a little bit of blue. I'm doing it down here first as a test on the window. But if this goes well, and it seems to be going well, then I'm going to add it to the wall also to give some shadow. And this is the first blue patch in this painting, so it should be popping out a little bit on your end also. Because I'm sure the camera has been starved for some blue tone. Cameras like blue. I don't know why. They prefer it. They really don't like yellow, I'll tell you that much. Or not yellow. Maybe it's green they don't like. It's one of those two. Okay. And a little bit of blue tone up here also. And even a little down here. Now note, the places that I'm choosing to drop the blue aren't so much leaving blue as they are a really interesting gray. Because that's what happens when you mix oranges with blues. They do this really neat gray blend. Now the only place that's still really popping blue is that window, because obviously that was the intention there. Okay. All right. know what? Let's do this way. Yes. Okay. I'm going to use that blue pool to add some shadows in a much wider, quicker method. All right. I know I'm at 50 minutes, but I still seem to have no viewers. So I am going to call this for now because my brain is just no longer focused. But if you do tune in later, thank you for watching. I am going to take, this is jammed up. I am going to take all the parts of these Wall-E painting sessions and turn them into one speed painting, showing from start to finish the process on this in about a minute. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Otherwise, have a lovely rest of your weekend.